There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thanks. Please be seated. Order. Honorable members, the first item on the order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. The first question has been asked by the Honorable C.C. September. The Honorable
To bring those people.
Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
You are not the Deputy President, Honorable Steenhuisen. I've just called the Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, may I address you in terms of Rule 63, the rule of anticipation?
Honorable Steenhuisen, just take your seat. Please proceed, Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker. Thank you. The proposed National Skills Development Strategy, which is referred to here and proposed as the NSDP, is currently a matter that is being discussed at NADLEC. The implementation thereof is scheduled to happen on the 1st of April 2020, once the process of consultation has been concluded and the relevant legislative framework has been finalized. The proposed new NSDP focuses on occupations that support growth, encourage employment creation, and enable social development. This will allow for the delivery of a range of programs and will not be restricted to scarce skills to ensure that these programs reach a large number of people, which in the end will enable them to have access to employment and be able to embark on self-employment opportunities. This proposed plan is aligned with many others, the National Development Plan, the White Paper for Post-School Education and Training, and other key documents of government which have set out important strategies and priorities for development with an emphasis on inclusive growth as well as employment creation. One of the most critical mandates of the Department of Higher Education, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that the skills development systems and all supporting institutions are properly aligned to respond not only to national priorities, but to the wide range of needs inherent in the developmental state project that we want to see happening in our country. The proposed NSDP specifically emphasizes the need to address all these challenges that have emerged from the current strategy, including but not limited to the production of artisans as envisaged in the NDP, and the placement of learners and graduates in the workplace. The role of the National Skills Authority will be restructured according to this plan and refocused with its functions concentrated specifically on the monitoring and evaluation of our skills development system. Lessons that have been learned from current strategy include the need to strengthen governance. The proposed plan seeks to establish credible systems for skills planning as well. Finally, the success of this strategy, Madam Speaker, and all other programs aimed at building our human capital will be judged by the extent to which our young people, who are the key beneficiaries of this, will be able to gain the skills necessary to participate meaningfully in the labor market of our country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable September.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, having listened to the response that you gave to the question, Deputy President, should our resolve then also not be to, whilst negotiations are continuing at NEDLAC, to also ensure that firstly we have a skilled and capable workforce that shares in and contributes to the benefits of economic expansion, and also, very importantly, inclusive growth. But more importantly, secondly, Deputy President, can we ensure that we would know that the success of the plan depends, of course, on cooperation of all role players for the benefits of women, for the benefits of youth, for the benefits of unemployed, for the benefit of learners. And what is government doing to realize this, and how would government ensure that all of this can happen? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, it is quite clear that the issue of skills development in our country is probably the most important project our nation should be embarking on. It is only through a skilled workforce that will be able to restructure the economy of our country and to ensure that we do indeed create jobs and meaningful jobs that our people can get into. Right now, the HRDC, which I chair, is focusing on that, but more importantly, the Department of Higher Education and Training also focuses on all this. And with the negotiations and the discussions that are taking place at the NEDLAC level, we are certain that those social partners within NEDLAC are the appropriate partners who should come up with innovative ideas and plans on how we can put our skills development process into a higher gear. Our young people are hungry for skills acquisition, and all we need to do is to open up all the doors, which to give them the opportunities to acquire those skills. And this we're seeking obviously to do through focus programs, through our TVET colleges and indeed our universities as well. But the TVET colleges are meant to be the focal areas where we want to absorb as many young people as we possibly can and skill them in real skills that are useful in the economy. And to this end, we're roping in as many companies as possible to cooperate with us at the TVET college level, either through adoption processes and also to curriculum development, so that as we develop these skills, the skills are well attuned to the world of work and to what the industry and companies also require. So I couldn't agree more with the member and honorable member and say that indeed skills development is the key area that we need to focus on as a nation and get all social partners in our country to participate in. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, skills development, as we've agreed, is a very important aspect of transformation in the country. One of the problems we seem to be experiencing is the tertiary institutions. There's no link between the needs, the skills needs of the country and the curriculum of the different tertiary institutions. Now, government provides NSFAS funding, provides bursaries. What is government willing to do to ensure that that funding that we provide in terms of NSFAS or bursaries is in line with the skills development needs of this country? And secondly, and very importantly, the challenges that we face in the TVET colleges, which is supposed to be providing the artisans and skills needed, the performance or the success rate at these TVET colleges are very limited. Could you please advise what additional measures government will take to resolve this matter? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Sheikh is absolutely right. There is a need for us to align what our institutions of higher learning are teaching with what the needs of the country are, and specifically what the needs of our economy are. And it is in this regard that we are encouraging these institutions to cooperate more at close range with industry players. And while we are encouraging industry players to interface with these institutions so that the curricula that are offered at institutions of higher learning are well aligned with what the industry needs. And this is beginning to take place in a number of cases. And this also touches on the second question that the Honorable Sheikh has raised about TVET colleges. As I said earlier in my answer, I said that we are encouraging TVET colleges to partner themselves with industry players, either close to where their institutions are located or to industry players that may well be located elsewhere, to bring them closer and to have a system of cooperation and collaboration which will lead to realignment of curricula, and also go beyond that and get young people to be placed in learnerships, in jobs, in those companies that may be operating in particular industries. Madam Speaker, we have found that when this happens, actually we do get a number of young people being offered not only learnerships, but real jobs when this type of cooperation happens. We've seen that happening in the Gauteng area as well as in other areas like KZN, and we want to encourage this more and more, because this is the way to go, to have a very good symbiotic relationship between industry and our institutions of higher learning, so that our education is not just theoretical, it must be practical and respond to the needs of the economy and the country. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Welcome, Sir 17. A developing country needs 6 skills in order for it to move forward. I'll enumerate a few. Infrastructure needs skills. Knowledge development and use need skills. Funds need skills to be developed and managed, and naturally occurring infrastructure. Skills is just one of those capitals, but this is very, very central. Now, schools are full, especially in the Eastern Cape, of school-going kids who reach up to matric without being able to read or write. This puts them on the back foot already. Now, my question to you is, how do you propose to circumvent the resultant inability of these students to be able, the resultant inability of them not being able to learn, or even to learn to unlearn those habits that are not productive and therefore are not able to contribute towards the economic development of the country? Just on the back foot of that also is the fact that over the medium term that we're looking at, the funding of TVET colleges is going to grow at a very, very slow pace compared with the other forms of education that the country, is offering. Now, this is a matter of concern. It means that for those people to be able to learn, they would depend on scholarships, and the like. So as government, how do you intend circumventing the fact that we need more skilled people when the education system is not being all that helpful, and especially from a funding perspective? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With regard to the challenges that our country continues to face at the school level, I'm pleased to say that, the Department of Basic Education is well aware and alive to these challenges and continues to take concerted efforts to address these very serious problems. The Minister of Basic Education continues to say the important task in the end is to revamp our education system to a point where we get young children at school level to be able to read and to write, and they have a number of projects and programs that are aimed at enhancing precisely this. And clearly, the legacy of our past tends to catch up with us as we move ahead, and it holds us back. But notwithstanding all that, there are a number of initiatives which the Department of Basic Education or the Ministry of Basic Education is embarking on, improving the whole process of learning and teaching. And where it is making traction, we're seeing phenomenal results. We're seeing how young people have taken up the task of learning, of reading, in quite an enthusiastic way. Clearly, the issue of funding is going to continue being a problem, particularly right now when the economy of our country is not growing as fast as we want it to grow. But our commitment to funding and supporting higher education, particularly at the TVET colleges one, is something that is firm and that we are determined to go ahead with. We will continue to fund those TVET colleges. Obviously, we would like to open as many as possible. That may not be possible. And this is where the partnership between the private sector and the public sector becomes important, because through this type of relationship, we'll be able to unlock resources, to unlock reservoirs of assistance that we can rely on to ensure that our education system produces the type of skills that we want it to produce. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. The ACDP welcomes the proposed new National Skills Development Strategy, which we hope will help address some of the many challenges facing poor and unemployed South Africans, such as accessing information about opportunities and available skills development programs. If I may, I would like to suggest that the Deputy President considers using his influence to ensure that when implementing agents of these programs disseminate information, that municipalities and constituency offices of members of parliament also become hubs where such information could be made available for community members. What I want to know from the Deputy President is whether or not the National Skills Development Strategy includes mentorship programs for the various skills being developed. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, the suggestion that we should utilize that as the implementing agents go about implementing this strategy, they should also utilize various offices, including offices of members of parliament. I find that to be a refreshing and welcome proposal, which we would like to take up with the ministry, or better still, with those who are going to be implementing this strategy. So I'd like to thank Reverend Mishwe for coming up with that idea, and I'm sure it is implementable. With regard to the issue of mentorship, mentorship clearly has to be part and parcel of this strategy. And we already see how mentorship pays dividends through the TVET college process that I was talking about. Because once we strike a partnership between, say, industry players and our TVET colleges, according to the various disciplines that are inherent in the TVET colleges, we often find that companies that participate are able to deploy people, some of them almost deployment on the permanent basis, and they are able to mentor young people in the various skills that they have chosen. So mentorship, particularly as we are dealing with a very terrible past of a past system that tended to dehumanize our people, we're finding that mentorship can help a great deal, And many who are participating in this type of process are finding it very worthwhile. And in that regard, I'd like to thank Reverend Meshoe again for raising this matter. Thank you.
We now come to question number 14, asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now, as I indicated in a previous reply in this very House, there is a section called Section 92(2) of the Constitution that says that members of cabinet, that is members of the executive, are accountable collectively as well as individually to Parliament, to this very Parliament, for the exercise of their powers and the performance of their functions. Now, the Constitution goes further and says that members of the National Executive must provide Parliament, which includes this National Assembly, with full and regular reports concerning matters under their control. The executive remains committed to ensuring that it accounts regularly and effectively to Parliament, that I can say without any equivocation. Cabinet receives regular report from the leader of government business, particularly when it comes to whether members of Parliament are executing their functions or not, when it comes to answering parliamentary questions. Each time the executive meets, the leader of government business presents a report on how each member of the executive is performing, and where we find that they are flagging in their performance, we raise it with them and encourage them to perform as is expected. So this matter I have dealt with quite extensively in this Parliament, in this National Assembly. And if there is a lack of clarity on this matter, the Constitution is a document that should be studied closely, and if it's not, it's a document that members can have for bedtime reading, and read it very carefully and understand exactly what it says. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
President. I mean, in the interest of the President having bedtime reading around the Constitution, I wanted to get some clarity from you, because it is correct that it is in the interest of accountability that members must come to this House to account. Now, we note that Deputy President Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, an ordinary citizen in South Africa, has been receiving state protection on the basis of a security threat assessment. Now, part of the culture that's developing is that even the President used a report which you mentioned, an intelligence report, to remove former finance minister. And worse, he's asking us to give him that report. Now, in the interest of accountability, I don't want the Minister of Police to come here and ask us to give him a security assessment for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. So what I'm more interested in asking, Deputy President, is how are we going to ensure that, in fact, the Minister of Police comes to account here about that flagrant state abuse? And ultimately, how does he ensure that state money is not being spent on protecting the friends or family of the President when it comes to this VIP security? Thank you very much.
Point of order. What's the point of order, Honorable Khadebe?
The Speaker, with due respect, the follow-up question is radically different from the original question. It's unfair to the Deputy President. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President, would you like to forego this question on the basis of the point of order that has been raised, or would you like to entertain it anyway?
Point of order, sir.
Point of order, Chair.
Honorable Deputy President, I see you were on your feet already.
Point of order, Chair.
No, Honorable Member. There was a point of order just now. I'm dealing with the Deputy President, Honorable Filtane. Can you just take your seat, please, and let's proceed?
So you'll give me the opportunity.
If you are on the list for follow-up question, I will give you.
No, I'm talking about the point of order.
No, Honorable Member, you don't raise a point of order on top of a point of order. Please take a seat, Honorable Filtane. Honorable Deputy President, please.
No, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I mean, in the light of the point of order that has been raised, all I wanted to add or say was that, I mean, in the interest of enhancing accountability and all that, I would advise the Honorable Member, Leader of the Opposition, to have these matters addressed at the relevant committee of this Assembly. And thereafter, it can also be raised here. So, and that is where the Minister of Police would be able to entertain and answer these questions. And I'm sure the Minister will not be saying that he should come up with an assessment report himself. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Now, Honorable Filtane, I will give you a chance to raise your point of order, but in actual fact, please, Honorable Members, can we allow a question session to stay that way? However, go ahead and raise your point of order.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. It has fallen off. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Paulson.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in February this year, the head of IPID, Robert McBride, reported to Parliament that members of the Hawks and SAPS were fighting and at times killing each other at OR Tambo Airport, fighting over drugs. He further said that the then Police Minister, Nathi Nhleko,
to him as the minister. Now, we observed in the Portfolio Committee on Police that Minister Nhleko would attend committee meetings with the acting police commissioner, Pahlane, but not with Mr. McBride, as part of the complete freeze-out he imposed on this crucial department in his former portfolio. So, umbuzo wami uthi, what measures are in place and what can you do as the leader of government business to resolve conflicts like this between ministers and their senior officials in order to ensure the smooth running of government?
The Honorable Deputy President.
I'm able to say that this matter indeed did arise and we had to deal with it. And as leader of government business, we tried to get the various parties together and sought to ensure that there is peace between them so that they can continue executing their tasks. It was a rather difficult matter to deal with. Many efforts were made to address this matter. And this is the type of matter where we intervened without trying to put it on the front pages of newspapers. It is an ongoing process that we get involved in at the leader of government business level to try to smooth ways and paths and ways of working together amongst colleagues. So this matter was addressed, and as it has turned out, there's been a change of guard, and we're hoping that these types of matters will not arise on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, now that we know that the Minister of Police has been replaced with the new Minister of Police, is there a process that you may have undertaken to ensure there is some form of continuity from the former Minister Nhleko to the new Minister Mbalula in order to fight crime in South Africa? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, we have, in the execution of our tasks, to ensure that there is indeed continuity in the work that is done between the changes of leadership in any government entity, be it at ministerial level, director general level, and a whole number of others. And in this case, yes, there has been, and we are encouraged by the enthusiasm that is being demonstrated by the new minister in as far as fighting crime is concerned. And I would like to invite all of us to encourage him and to wish him well in the execution of his very difficult task. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 15, asked by the Honorable Mthethwa to the Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Over the last 30 months, this program that we call Back to Basics program in local government has become well known and has become also a well-accepted transformative intervention, having been introduced by the former Minister of Cooperative Governance, Minister Pravin Gordhan. It has touched all municipalities and gained traction from metros to the smallest municipality in our country, and it is pleasing to note that even in the remotest areas of our country, this program has gained so much traction and is being talked about as the one program that is being utilized to revamp our municipalities. Even where there is a change of leadership, particularly after the August elections last year, we are finding that even the change of leadership parties that have come in have embraced this program and are implementing it. And multidisciplinary interdepartmental Back to Basics task teams have done a lot of work in most municipalities to develop municipal action plans, and that is very pleasing. Now, some of the indicators of success in the implementation of the first phase of this plan are, for example, that 92% of reporting municipalities had complaint management systems in place by the end of 2015-2016. Now, this was against the backdrop of very little compliance or adherence to municipal reporting systems. It shows that there is a great improvement. A number of water service interruptions nationally decreased by more than half, and that is also a good indicator of how this Back to Basics plan is working well. However, there are still some challenges in a number of municipalities. Although there are fewer water disruptions, there are still problems with the state of water infrastructure in many municipalities, to the extent that around 10% of municipal water schemes can be described right now as being dysfunctional. These problems include poor management, lack of effective maintenance, and they also unfortunately involve things like vandalism and theft. Some municipalities have had difficulty in paying their ESCOM bills, and the provision of, in areas of refuse removal has remained a challenge. But the first phase of Back to Basics focused on laying the foundation for a developmental local government by doing that just basic things. Building on this foundation and all the lessons that we have learned, the second phase, Madam Speaker, will focus on ways in which municipal programs can become instruments of social, of economic transformation to build more inclusive local community economies. There will be greater focus on issues such as spatial planning, local economic development, and opportunities to improve the financial health of municipalities. All in all, Madam Speaker, this has been one of the more successful programs that government has implemented, particularly at the level where our people live. And as this plan is implemented going forward, I'm sure that we are going to see a totally transformed municipal government system in our country, the type that we've always hoped that we would have. Thank you.
The Honorable Mtetwa.
Thank you, Deputy President, for giving us this answer. But in your summit, did you also discuss the issue of those provinces that are still lagging behind in terms of the implementation of this program?
Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, Madam Speaker. At the summit that was held recently, I would say that the majority of municipalities were represented, and indeed, all provinces also participated, and we also discussed areas in our country where there is still a lack of proper implementation of the Back to Basics program, and we also came up with plans and strategies of how we can support those municipalities where there is still, they still have challenges. So this was discussed, and beyond that summit, we are expecting that there will be greater and greater adherence to the basic Back to Basics program, and that our municipality system will be a lot better than it was a few years ago. And indeed, the signs are already there. People who participate in the municipal system are truly enthusiastic, and they need to be encouraged to continue with the good work that they are performing. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in the spirit of nation building, we must admit that we have the masses of our people that do not have access to water, roads, sanitation, houses, etc. And that's why most of them are very apathetic, because they don't receive these services or as speedily as it was announced. Hopefully, 23 years into democracy, we should move away from saying, no, we're still laying the foundations, and try to hasten service delivery. Now, there are issues, Honorable Deputy President, that are undermining all this, the Back to Basic program, as we move to the third phase of it. One is the question of non-compliance with no consequence management. No punishment, no punitive measures taken are those who are involved in corruption, undermining the legal prescripts that are there. We find that nothing is done. Secondly, the whole question of cadre deployment, it's still really plaguing our municipalities in particular. And I must say, Deputy President, that we do have some sizable pool of skills, although we still need some scarce skills, especially within municipalities. Let me cite one example, Deputy President. Just before we went for oversight, just by the side of our parliament, by the gate, there were about 50 young people with degrees, B degrees, honors degrees, and master's degrees. And some of these, when you move nearer to them, they had some scarce skills. Some of them had engineering degrees, but they would tell you for 5 years of being unemployed. This is the issue that we're facing. What is it that can be done to address these matters that I've referred to, Honorable Deputy President? Thank you very much.
Before I call on the Deputy President to respond, can I discourage making of examples? Because while you are making the example, you tell a story instead of asking a question. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to tell a story as well.
You have the right to tell a story because you are answering. I'd like members of parliament to ask questions.
Yes. Now, Madam Speaker, in answering Honorable Member Kobisa's question, because he started outlining some of the challenges that are faced by our municipalities, issues such as water, roads, and sanitation. I happened to be in the Makana municipality a few days ago, and I got to fully realize the type of challenges that some of these municipalities face. Makana municipality, particularly in Grahamstown, has a 200-year-old infrastructure. 200 years infrastructure that they now have to deal with in terms of maintaining it, revamping it, and making sure that the 82,000 people who live in that municipality have the best of service delivery. Now, those are the challenges that they face, and they have to address them, particularly when it comes to a very, very small budget or revenue stream that they get from the residents of the town. They have to find ways of repairing the infrastructure and maintaining it that they have. In relation to the skills, particularly the young people who have skills, a number of these municipalities need highly skilled people, and those highly skilled people, Honorable Kobisa is right, can be found in our country, and many of our young people have qualified extremely well in some of those scarce skills. And our task is to go out there and find them. And we're encouraging our municipalities to go out and find these young people, and not just to deploy the usual people that they often have around them. Because those skills are there throughout the length and the breadth of our country. They are in the form of highly trained financial people, highly trained engineers, and we're encouraging them to advertise widely and to go and find them and employ these young people to make a contribution in the municipalities that they run. Thank you.
The Honorable Filtane. Very energetic today, Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Chair. I will not give an example. I will lay the evidence. In the context of corruption, my own municipality, Ngoma, Parawe, refuse bags being sold for 182 rands a piece. That's evidence, not just an example. So where one of the fundamentals is obviously not in place. In other words, of the 6 capitals, there are funds going into the wrong pockets. I'm aware of the fact that the hawks are on it. That's why I said, it's evidence. Now, the other fundamental which is not in place and therefore an inhibiting factor in the whole program of going back to basics is the absence of land. 2013, an act was passed, Pluma, but now it's not effectively being implemented for 2 reasons. The traditional leaderships are up in arms against it, so many of them, and to make matters worse, this now has been handed over to the presidency. How do municipalities do any function if they have got no land that they can plan the use of? Your answer will be highly appreciated by South Africa.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The issue of land, particularly land for municipalities, is a highly contentious issue, because as our towns grow, as our cities grow, scarcity of land becomes a huge challenge, where people can have houses built for them, or where they may well want to build houses themselves. And the issue of Spluma that the honorable member has raised is a matter that is being discussed currently. Yes, there are a number of views, and sometimes differing views, but I'm confident that we are going to be able to find answers even around this very contentious issue of implementation of Spluma and the issue of land as a whole. And I would like to say that let's give it time, and the process is underway of discussions, of trying to find solutions to precisely this question. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Cebe Kulu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in some way, the continued slide of the South African economy and pressure on local government can be attributed to persistent and significant infrastructure constraints, not only affecting business, but also well-being of thousands of people who migrate to urban areas every month for a better life and basic services. How will the Back to Basics program assist in bringing an end to disparities between rural and urban populations to ensure infrastructure development in rural areas? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
The Back to Basics program is precisely focusing on this as one of its key pillars of prioritizing the revamping of our municipalities. The government is committed to ensuring that the disparities between rural and urban are addressed as a matter of policy and government action, and we want as much as possible to continue promoting development in the rural areas, because a number of our people live in those areas, communities live there, and they were hugely neglected under the apartheid rule. Not that much else was done in the urban areas. So the government is addressing both. And we're also focusing on how we can generate economic growth also in the rural areas, so that we find ways of attracting investors to get closer to the rural areas and generate economic activity. And this clearly can be done through a variety of ways such as agro-processing, which we are focusing on, and a whole number of other activities like the agri-parks that we have embarked on. And through this, we're hoping that we will be able to create a community of progress and success, particularly at the economic level. So this is a matter that we are very, very keen to continue focusing on. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 16, asked by the Honorable Soledi. And I would like to call upon the Deputy President to answer.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. South Africa is, much as we may be going through a number of challenges, and where many people believe that we've got serious challenges and problems, particularly at the economic level, it could also be at the political level, but our country, what remains and what needs to be said is that our country is far more stable and far more prosperous, and in many important respects, it's become a relatively more equal society than it has been for the past 2 decades. We emerged from a divided past to adopt a constitution that is admired all over the world, and this constitution has formed the bedrock of a new and better society for South Africa. We have established democratic institutions that are stable and robust, and we should be proud that we've got so many democratic institutions, some of which are independent, and these are democratic institutions that we should defend, promote, and make sure that they continue existing and have integrity. In addition to Chapter 9 institutions established to support constitutional democracy, there are thriving civil society organizations that work to advance the values of our Constitution, that are made up of a wide variety of our people in their diverse nature. We have regular elections for all spheres of government, which have consistently seen higher voter turnout and have resulted in several instances in the smooth transfer of power at all levels. We have achieved and maintained macroeconomic stability and have managed our public resources prudently, continuously, sustainably, and progressively. We have a stable, effectively regulated, and adequately capitalized financial sector and a diversified economy. South Africans are very active in challenging the state and indeed in challenging the private sector to give effect to the socio-economic rights that are enshrined and embodied in our Constitution. The South African economy has expanded significantly since 1994. It is now around 85% bigger in real terms than it was in 1994. Real per capita GDP is about 1/3 higher than it was in 1994. About 8 million more South Africans are in employment, more than we had in 1994. In other words, we have created, since 1994, 8 million and more jobs. The number of Africans and women participating in the labor market have more than doubled. The growth of the middle class, the black middle class, has been accompanied by a significant drop in both absolute and relative poverty. Now, you may think that I'm just rattling statistics. Now, I will invite you to go and read the publication that was put out by the South African Institute of Race Relations, who for decades and decades have been analyzing and monitoring the progress of our country and our nation economically, socially, and politically. And they came out with a report that confirms all this, where they said, truth be told, we have made progress in the past 23 years. Whether people like it or not, that is the reality of our situation. Now, some people may not like the fact that we've made this progress. Some people may feel that, no, it is not